Hi, I'm Kellen Bryant, board certified elder law attorney, and I've assisted over 313 families in Florida guardianship over the last 15 years. By the end of this 5-minute video, you'll understand what guardianship is, why it might be necessary, and the process. Let's get started. What is guardianship is essentially probate court for somebody who is alive and incapacitated. It is not a durable power of attorney. A durable power of attorney is far less restrictive than a guardianship. A guardianship is a court supervised proceeding over the care and property management of an incapacitated person. That incapacitated person in Florida guardianship law is called a ward. The person who manages the ward's affairs and financial and physical medical affairs is called a guardian. So in a Florida guardianship proceeding, the legal rights of the ward are removed, meaning the ward has no decision-making capabilities or official abilities to make decisions on certain things the court says the incapacity touches. If the court says the ward has no ability to determine where they live or how to manage money, then the ward will never be able to do those things until the guardianship ends. Who needs guardianship and why? Children under the age of 18 require guardianship because they can't manage money. Developmentally disabled adults who cannot make certain decisions due to their developmental disability, they can be under a guardian advocacy. And then finally, incapacitated adult. Guardianships required mostly because due to those incapacity, those limitations, also formally referred to as incompetencies, the court is needed and required to oversee and supervise the care, well-being of the incapacitated person. It protects the ward from themselves and from others. So how does guardianship work? In most cases, the person who feels that somebody is incapacitated and needs to be protected should go to an attorney. And during this attorney meeting consultation, the attorney will help develop the initial court filings, which will be a petition to determine incapacity and a petition to appoint the guardian. Once those two things are drafted and filed, that will kickstart the guardianship process. In the court, 3 people to an examining committee to evaluate the mental capacity of the alleged incapacitated person, who will be called a ward. Next, the court will appoint an attorney for the alleged incapacitated person, and that attorney will be adverse. They will be against you who may be interested in filing the guardianship. So after the examination process, there will be a court hearing to review the findings of the committee and the attorney for the ward and your attorney who will be advocating for the guardianship have data to support the guardianship. At that point, the court's going to determine if the person's incapacitated or not, or whether or not there are less restrictive means to guardianship, such as power of attorney, living will, healthcare surrogate, and so forth. And then if none, to protect the needs of the ward, then the court will appoint a guardian. The guardian is now required to engage in a very transparent process. The guardian is now required to discover all the ward's financial resources and report them in an inventory 60 days after the appointment. Also, the guardian over the person is required to prepare a report to the court over the plan of care for the next year for the ward within that 60-day deadline. There will be an annual review as long as the incapacity remains and the ward is alive. Now, if there's substantial money or a serious financial or medical issue, the guardian needs to request the court to give the guardian approval to take that specific action. And anyone in all these proceedings that could be considered next of kin has an ability to know what is going on. Now, at the end of the guardianship, the guardian must produce a final report and handle the money over to the appropriate person. That's guardianship in a nutshell. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe and leave a comment below if you have any other questions. Thanks.